Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're unpacking exactly why Executive Order 1119 is an absolute game changer for digital security in the Philippines. So, why does this matter right now? Well, if you've ever interacted with a government agency online, submitted any personal documents, or honestly just wondered how safe our national data really is against modern cyber threats, this is absolutely for you. We're looking at a fundamental, ground-up shift in how the Philippine government handles, categorizes, and stores its most sensitive information. Get this. Until very recently, our modern digitalizing government was actually relying on a data security framework drafted all the way back in 1964. Yeah, 1964. We're talking about Memorandum Circular Number 78. That was an era of typewriters, giant filing cabinets, and purely paper-based bureaucracy. Fast forward to 2026, and we're dealing with cloud computing, hybrid digital systems, and cross-border data flows. The gap between those two realities was a massive vulnerability just waiting to be exploited. Here is our quick roadmap for today. First, the 1964 problem. Second, what EO 119 covers. Third, classifying government data. Fourth, the data residency framework. And finally, the 3-year implementation plan. Okay, Section 1, the 1964 problem. Signed by President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. on July 13, 2026, Executive Order 119 directly addresses the contemporary cybersecurity risks that a decades-old memorandum simply couldn't handle. The text of the order actually explicitly notes that the 1964 framework is, quote, no longer fully responsive to modern digital governance. It was well past time for a complete overhaul. Today's cross-border cyber threats demand immediate, secure digital transformation across the entire government, really just to safeguard national security and uphold data sovereignty. Moving right along to Section 2, what EO 119 covers. So, who actually falls under these new rules? It's very specific. Your standard national government agencies, government-owned corporations, and state universities and colleges are all totally covered. Now, while private sector commercial data is strictly exempt, there's a huge caveat here. Any private entity handling public services, public-private partnerships, or critical infrastructure on behalf of the government, they have to comply with EO 119 too. So if a private cloud provider is storing government data, the agency has to ensure strict safeguards are in place. You literally can't just outsource your way out of compliance. Section 3, classifying government data. Basically, the government is going to use a risk-based methodology to separate data into two very clear buckets. Open access data is exactly what it sounds like, unclassified, everyday information that doesn't involve national security. But restricted access data, that is where the rigorous protocols kick in. Treating a standard public press release with the exact same security as national defense strategies is highly inefficient, and that's exactly the kind of mess this new system fixes. Now, inside that restricted access bucket, there are 4 specific tiers of severity. Top secret is for information where a leak would cause exceptionally grave damage to the nation. We're talking politically, economically, or militarily. Secret is one step down, where a leak could cause serious injury to the nation's prestige or give a foreign power a great advantage. Confidential protects against administrative embarrassment or unwarranted injury to individuals. And finally, restricted covers everything else that still needs some level of protection. Oh, and this is crucial. The EO strictly prohibits what it calls overclassification. Agencies have to get this right so they aren't wasting time and money guarding things that don't need it while keeping our true national secrets locked down tight. Now, with all these strict classifications in place, it naturally begs a really interesting question. When we talk about the cloud, it's super easy to forget that the cloud is actually just a physical server sitting in a building somewhere on Earth, right? So where are the Philippine government servers actually allowed to be? To answer that, we first need to understand the concept of data sovereignty. EO 1190 mandates that all government data remains subject to the laws and jurisdiction of the Republic of the Philippines, regardless of where it's physically stored or processed. It guarantees our national data stays under our own legal protection, keeping it completely out of the jurisdictional reach of foreign courts or governments. Which brings us to Section 4, the Data Residency Framework. The newly established rules in Section 7 directly tie the physical location of a server to the sensitivity of the data it holds. This is exactly where the virtual world hits hard, geographic borders. And it's an incredibly logical, risk-based approach. The higher the security classification, the tighter the geographical leash. For example, if data is top secret or secret, it stays on our soil, period.
That actually includes territories where the Philippines exercises sovereignty, like our embassies and consulates abroad. Confidential data is generally kept in-country too, though exceptions can be made with explicit approval. But for the lower tiers, like restricted or open access data, the government recognizes how efficient modern tech is. Those are permitted to be stored on secure cloud platforms, regardless of physical location, as long as there is strict encryption and strong cybersecurity in place.
Finally, Section 5, the 3-year implementation plan. Look, you can't just flip a switch and expect a massive bureaucracy to instantly adopt 2026 cloud security protocols overnight. It just doesn't work that way. To manage this huge transition, EO 119 creates a brand new body, the Joint Oversight Committee for Data Classification. Co-chaired by the DICT and the National Security Council, this committee is essentially the steering wheel for the whole rollout. They're going to create the guidelines, monitor compliance, resolve disputes between agencies, and report directly to the president. They're taking a really pragmatic approach here. Agencies aren't expected to fix everything on day one. Instead, they're on a strict, phased 3-year timeline. Year 1 is all about getting the house in order, building capacity, training staff, and doing a massive inventory and initial classification of data. Year 2 is the critical deadline where all that high-stakes data, top secret and secret, must be totally compliant with the new storage rules. Then by year 3, full compliance is required across the board for all remaining government data. It's a very methodical march toward total digital security. So coming back to our main point, why does EO 119 matter right now? Because in an era of daily, sophisticated cyber threats, clinging to 1964 rules is just no longer an option. By the end of this phased rollout in 2029, the entire landscape of Philippine government data will have been mapped, classified, and secured under highly modern standards. The leap from paper memos to encrypted cloud sovereignty is absolutely massive, and it ultimately means your personal data and our national security are finally being protected for the modern age. With EO 119 bridging the gap between 1964 and the cloud era, how secure will your digital interactions with the government be in 2029? Something to think about. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep asking questions, and I'll see you on the next one.